Our first technical glitch. There had to be one to start off with. There you are. Good evening, Marcel. Cheers.
Good evening, Anna. Good evening, Jean-Michel. Bonjour. Bonsoir.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening to the world of the Wine Society from Portsmouth to Aberdeen or wherever. This is going to be an evening about Vacqueras. We could have an evening about Gigondas. To have Vacqueras and Gigondas on the same day, we'd have to be on air till about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I've got a supper to cook. So we're just doing Vacqueras. Now, it's quite extraordinary. The Wine Society has been a very keen follower of Rhône wines for a very long time. But when I first started, a Rhône trip was done in about 2 days. And most of that was lunch. So we spoke to 1 or 2 negotiations, that was it. And then since then, of course, the whole scene has changed with huge number of growers coming through. And we've done our best to capture as many as possible, and if possible, select the really good ones. And talking about really good ones, Clos de Cazaux comes up trumps when we talk about Vacqueras. It's an important property, always has been, and they make, I think, fantastic wines. So good that we even put our own label on one of their Vacqueras. We call it the Society's Exhibition Vacqueras, and we are very proud to do so. And we'll taste it this evening. So, Jean-Michel, over to you, really, and maybe to start off, maybe a little history of Clos de Cazaux and the Vache family.
Okay.
Over to you.
Thank you, Marcel. So first of all, hello everybody. I'm Jean-Michel Vache, one of the actual owner of the Clos de Cazaux. I've seen all the messages while hearing Marcel. I am so amazed by the number of persons joining us, and everybody, or quite everybody's drinking Rhône. Most of them, Clos de Cazaux. I'm so proud of this, really. And I want to thank you for your attention in the coming minutes. So let's talk about family Vache, which is in fact family Vache and Archimbaud. Vache is the name of my father, and Archimbaud the name of my mother. All the vineyard, or the best part of the vineyard, is coming from Archimbaud family, which is established in Vacqueras since the 16th century. So I am actually the 5th generation of pure winemakers, but centuries ago, of course, we were doing lots of things like olive or cherry trees or apricot trees. But since the beginning of the 20th century, we have specialized ourselves in winemaking. My great-grandfather, Gabriel Archimbaud, was the first one bottling and selling Vacqueras in bottle, for example. We have now, as you can see, the rest of the family, my grandma on my right-hand side, then father and mother, who are retired now, and at the other extreme, my brother Frédéric, which is working for me since 1998, and is enologist, is in charge of the winemaking, aging and bottling, and I'm in charge of the vineyard and of the sales. We are working together without any problem for more than 20 years now. Very happy to work together. We are two very different persons, and both of us are really impassioned with what we do. Fred in the wine business and me in the vineyard. Marcel, have I forgotten something? Tell me.
I think that's good, Jean-Michel.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So let me present a little bit the domain. We have 3 different really different AOC, Côte de Rhône, Vacqueras, and as Marcel said, Gigondas. We are running a 50 hectares vineyard, 25 hectares in Vacqueras, 20 hectares in Gigondas, and 5 hectares in Côte de Rhône. We are very, very lucky to have 5 different major terroirs in our property that allows us to produce a lot of different wines if you mix these 5 major terroirs with the incredible amounts of grape varieties that we have in the south of Rhône. Total production is 130,000 bottles. That may sound a bit heavy. It is not. It is just the maximum we can do in doing everything by hand. Everything is done by hand. So it's really a traditional business at the maximum of its possible. Yes, we can go to the next slide, perhaps. Yeah, you see the vineyards, the vines. Yeah, you have the team. One more time. Then go. Yes, if for the one who are not really good in geographics, we are really south in the Rhône Valley, near Châteauneuf-du-Pape. That's a half an hour from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. But the thing interesting is that we are not definitely not like Châteauneuf-du-Pape in terms of soil and underground. We are from the Alps. We are at the beginning of the Alps. So the raw material is really different from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. We're not talking about roadstones or marne or clay calcareous. We're talking about pure calcareous, heavy fields of stones, and at the same time, pure clay and pure sand. So that's really, really different, in my opinion, from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Then yes, the location of Vacqueras. It's quite important for you to see this picture, because you understand now, seeing this picture, that Clos de Cazaux is very close from the town, and it's located out of the main big area of production, which is on a really flat plateau. I don't know how to say it in English. So that allows us to make some different wines. Of course, we do have vineyards on this plateau. You know this vineyard very well, because it's with this vineyard that we do the exhibition. Because when you see the star on the plateau there, this is the terroir of the exhibition of the Grenache. Yes, exactly here. The Grenache from the exhibition is coming from here, and it's made with more than 80 years old vineyards. So we're really proud of this. And the rest is focused for a part surrounding the house. Then we have a hill, an entire hill, which is south looking, with a bit of clay, and north, as you can see, with the Grenat Noble, with a bit of clay, and on the green square you have the sandy part. So sandy part is because millions of years ago, Vacqueras was like an island with a coral reef, and there was something like 200 meters of water in there. And when the water left, the coral disaggregate and turn to sand. That's why we have sand, and sand is very, very interesting for white production. That's why we have at the same time a very good red production because of the clay and the very good white production because of the sand. Yes, what else to say? Yes, you now have, as I told you, the different parts. I show you the exhibition, which is on the plateau, Exhibition Terroir. Very, very interesting. It's really when you're drinking an exhibition wine, you are drinking the Vacqueras as it has to be, and most of all, hand picked and selected. Very important, because now Vacqueras and all the area is more and more harvested by machine. So I don't really appreciate this way of working. When you're in the top appellation, the minimum you can do is respect the product and harvest it by hand. You have enough money to do it. So the Grenoble, as you can see, is really in the bottom of the appellation, near a river, and it should appear that it's not a very good terroir, except when you have the noble rot. And as you know, to have rot, you need to be near a river, near humidity, and that's where Grenoble is. And we will explain later on what the rot does on the Grenache, which is very unique. And then you have the sand on top of the top of the village, which is, as I told you, rests of corals. And sand is a very neutral terroir, so it makes the claret and the Roussanne and Grenache white express themselves in their purity of the variety. We're not producing we're really producing a grape variety wine on these whites. Marcel, something to add, or?
No, not really. I would have added, when you were talking about the difference between Vacqueyras and Châteauneuf-du-Pape, there's a difference in climate, which is quite important, I think.
Yeah, very important.
Well, because in Vacqueyras and Gigondas, you're actually very close to mountains.
Yeah.
And that has a big influence on the wines. Whereas Châteauneuf-du-Pape is, let's face it, it's right bang smack under the sun, and everything bakes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very hot.
Very hot, higher. Châteauneuf are harvesting actually at least 10 days before us in Vacqueras. And we are harvesting the Gigondas 2 weeks after the Vacqueras. So we are talking about a month difference. That's enormous. Then we could see the difference between Vacqueras and Gigondas.
That's
so
very
very, very important to make you understand the difference of our vineyard. What you see here, the first on your left hand side, is our slopes in Vacqueras. So the one on the bottom, really bottom, is the one producing a part of the Grenoble, and the highest there on the other side are the sandy part producing the white. We own the whole hill, so we have all the exposures, and it's really, really useful with this climate changing for us to maintain freshness depending on the vintage, rainy or not. We can really pick on the different terroirs to have freshness on the wine every year. And then on the other picture, you see two big hills behind the town of Vacqueras. And on the top, or quite nearly at the top of the one on your right hand side, you have my vineyard of Gigondas, which is 7 kilometers from my domain, and it's from 600 to 800 meters height. So very, very different terroir. One more time, we're not talking about Gigondas tonight, but it's really something useful if you want to try Clos de Cazaux, to try Vacqueras and Gigondas, because you have the same philosophy in a vineyard, the same winemaker, and just expression of the terroir, which is different. Very, very interesting to do. Let's go on the next slide, perhaps. Yes, as you can see, Gigondas, this is our part of Gigondas. As I told you, fields of stones. It's really, really, really high on the mountain, as you can see on the one with the picture on the left. Incredible vineyard. I have seen my father planting this vineyard in '74. Amazing, amazing, incredible. The one in the middle is the Saracen, the Saracen Tower, called the Saracen Tower, which is in fact an ancient castle. Can we go? Yeah, which is an ancient castle. It's above, it's on top of our vineyard. If you stay on the Saracen Tower, you can see all our vineyards and different cuvées. And the one on the right-hand side is the typical Gobelet and the Mont Ventoux that you can see in the end. We are just half an hour from south from Mont Ventoux. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's. I'm really. I was up there this morning. It's just paradise. So yeah, we're talking about our philosophy. Our philosophy is really, really out of the fashion, and it's corresponding to what we do on ourselves. We treat, my whole family treat ourselves with a lot of homeopathy, a lot of natural things, and the result is that we are doing the same in a vineyard. To make you understand a bit more, we are close to a Chinese medicine philosophy. You see, Chinese medicine is always trying to prevent any illness by balancing the yin and the yang, and this pairing of elements is exactly what we're looking for during the whole year long. You see, we do analysis on the soil every year on every type of soil to have to be sure that every element is at the right place, that our soil is living with the maximum microlife and all traces elements are okay. Then we do branches. Now, actually, tomorrow I will do branches analysis to see if everything is correct. That means that the end after the harvest, in fact, the leaves are still feeding the plant, and they're preparing the next year. So we're really analyzing one more time the traces element, the starch, and the raw sugar, and the level of starch and the level of raw sugar, to see if the beginning of the next vintage will be good. And if it's not, we are trying to prepare treatments to fight against this trouble. Then we are analyzing during the big the important season. I'm talking about April, May, June. We are analyzing the raw sap of the vineyards every 2 weeks to see if the balance between, for example, nitrogen and phosphorus is okay, potassium and magnesia, because all these feeds the berries. You see, nitrogen and phosphorus for growing, potassium and magnesia is for the color, it's for the flavors. So we're doing everything all the year long, and it's preventing, in fact, any bad behavior that should make the vineyards less healthy and less fruity and less able to mature and to ripe the berries by themselves, because the difference we have between our neighbors is that most of the time we are maturing our berries with the vineyard and not with the sun, because in the south of the valley you can be matured by sun with the amount of sun that we have, you see. Then we are, as you can see, yeah, we are a high level environmental view, and even more. So I really love this label. this new government certificate. Then, yeah, slides to show you that when the soil is okay, everything is okay. The flowers are pushing. We are really careful about this. We have a lot of forest in our vineyard, as you can see. It's not a desert of vines. It's really surrounded by forest to have wild animals. I love this. I'm really not a fan of chemicals. I can say that I do use chemicals sometimes. For example, in 2018, we had a very big problem with mildew, and then I'll be obliged to spray one time a special chemical to fight against this mildew, because otherwise we should have the vines dying. I don't care about the harvest, but I do care about the vines, because this is what makes me live year after year. Whew.
Ooh, indeed.
Yeah.
That's well explained, Jean-Michel. I think maybe it's time for a glass of wine. What do you think?
I think so.
I think so.
So on my side, as I'm very lucky, I have my Grenoble.
Yeah,
I will explain you the white.
Let's talk about white.
Perhaps you can describe a little bit the white, if you don't mind, and then I'll give the technical process then, if you don't mind.
I shall describe the white as in my own way.
Yes.
White Rhône in general represents a tiny percentage of the total. It's slightly more today than it used to be, but it's still very small. White Vacqueras is completely unknown for most people. I think I'm right in saying it's 1% of production.
Yeah, it is.
1%. A bit more, maybe. It's very small.
Yeah.
And certainly I had never tasted the white Vacqueras until one day I came to a place called Le Clos des Cazaux. And then I tasted the white Vacqueras, and it has to be said, it blew me sideways. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. At the time, I used to do my own blend of Macon Village, which we call the Society's White Burgundy. And I must admit, if I'd had the white Vacqueras in the tasting, I'm not sure I'd have seen the difference.
Thank you.
I thought the wine was so good, so fresh, such lovely acidity, lovely sort of natural fruit flavors. And it may not go with the curry that I am cooking. I shall drink it in any case.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for your comments. I do really appreciate your love for our white. Lots of things to say about the white. First of all, of course, we talk about the white, and these at the sale of the Wine Society, of course. Thank you, Marcel. And we are white Vacqueras, as Marcel said, is 1% of the appellation in production, and we are 50% of this 1%. That means that we are the biggest producers of Vacqueras white, and this has a very, very simple explanation. My grandfather's passion for wine. Just imagine, after the Second World War, everybody was really, really starving, and they were planting reds because all the customers were asking for reds from the Rhône Valley. But my grandfather was in passion with terroirs, and in the sand, you cannot have a good red dog. So he planted white in the 50s, simply because he was enjoying it. And now the result is that he planted the right grape variety, the Clairette, which is a very low alcohol giving grape variety, matured at 11, with some Roussanne and some white Grenache. And naturally, the wine came in a good way. That means that we have not created this fruity, incredibly fruity and fresh wine. It's thanks to my grandfather, who was a kind of visionary, and he created this blend like we create paintings. see. And really thanks to him, I passed away now for years. But if you are tasting, if you are enjoying this Vacqueras white, it's because it's thanks to him. And now, thanks to my brother, because he did his studies in Burgundy, and that's where we joined Marcel with the Macon, because he studied in Bonn, and he's been drinking Chardonnay for years, you see. And when he came back home, he had the recipe of the white wine making. And before he came, I was doing the wine, and the white was quite good. But with my brother action, it became what it is now. And really, we have a recipe now. You can say it. It's very good every year. We do have the right recipe for this wine, so don't care about vintage. Am I okay?
Absolutely. It's a super wine, and even in a year like 2019, which was quite a hot vintage, it doesn't taste that hot. It still tastes very fruity and very fresh.
Yeah,
and very easy to drink.
You are right about this. It's really, one more time, it's because of the claret.
Yeah,
that's the secret of this white is the claret. Really, definitely. And something I don't know if you even know it. The recipe goes that far in our passion that this white is every year 12.8 degree, not 12.9, not 12.5, because the balance and the freshness of this wine comes with 12.8. So it can be easy to say, but just imagine for me in the vineyard, the nightmare that I'm living, because my brother tells me every day, I need 2 tons at 30, I need 2 tons at 11.2, and I'm obliged to run in the vineyard. It's just to find the number of tons that he needs to have this bloody 12.8 degrees. It's for me 2 weeks of nightmare doing this white.
Well, that's 2 weeks well worth it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's hard in the beginning, but then when you have the work properly done, you forget it, because everything is done. The whites are done in the vineyard. So then the recipe with freshness, with balance, acidity, and body, it's done. We know how to do it in the cellar now. So yeah, for the one who don't know about Vacqueras white, this Vacqueras white is really a very, very impressive white for aperitif, seafood, oysters, and fresh coat cheese. Really, you must try it with this kind of meals, and it's just amazing. Even for myself, I cannot. The bottle is open, and 10 minutes after, empty.
I can attest to it being absolutely delicious, Jean-Michel.
Yeah.
I'm actually tasting the old vine now.
Oh, the old ones, yes, it's that.
And it is very
It's
delicious
another thing,
as well.
yeah.
A couple of members have asked if it's available to buy, and I'd just like to clarify, yes, and it is also available to buy in bottle. I've popped the link in the chat. I'll email you all the link as well tomorrow. And just to clarify again, we had a couple of questions coming in. It is majority claret, correct,
Yeah,
Jean-Michel? And
yeah.
then some Marsanne and Roussanne, and the claret is what makes it different. So that's claret blanc, which is
That's
a white
Roussanne,
variety.
that's Roussanne and white Grenache.
Oh, white Grenache. I apologize. There we go.
Good.
Lovely.
Marcel, do I just speak briefly about the Vieille Vigne as Anna mentioned it, or do I go on the exhibition?
You can talk about that. Yeah. Can I just say something? This is very general about white wines from the Rhône Valley. As I said, it's still a relatively small thing. And at one time it was even smaller. At one time too, quality wasn't particularly good because growers tended to pick everything more or less at the same time. And so white grapes were picked in September or October and without too much care. So the white Rhones and white Languedoc as well often had a reputation for being a little bit a bit oxidized, a bit alcoholic. All that, of course, changed completely. And your brother going to bone is something that's been, was very much part of the change.
Yeah.
And white wines today from the Rhone Valley are nothing at all like they used to be when I first started. Anyway,
You're right.
I think so. What do we talk about now?
I think if
Yeah,
we just spend a couple of minutes on that, I'm conscious of time and we want to get onto the exhibition and the Grenade. But a couple of minutes, just the difference perhaps between that.
Just explaining the people and make them understand just a little bit about this very small cuvée, which is exclusive to the Wine Society and exclusive in magnums. My brother and I, are winemakers, but we are wine lovers too. And this vieille vigne is just the result of our passion for eating and drinking. We have the Cuvée de Clé d'Or, as I told you, which is done for beginning of meals. And some of you know that we have a suite, which is mostly for dessert. So we were thinking about having an entire meal with white Clos de Cazaux. The main dish, the one for main dish, was missing. And we have really created the vieille vigne, picking in our oldest terroirs, all the best from the best, in white Grenache, Clairette, and a bit of very small amount of Viognier, old Viognier that we have, to create this really full-bodied wine, massive wine, which can match on any white meat like veal, like lamb, and you must try it with your Stilton. This is so gorgeous with the Stilton. I import Stilton to drink this in my home.
I didn't know that.
Try it.
Marcel, you've got your present for your next visit, I think, sorted there.
Yeah.
That's a Stilton.
You bring the Stilton and I bring the bottle of vieille vigne.
As Jean-Michel said, this is produced only in very small quantities. And it's a very special wine, and it's a wine that's very much, I think, a dinner wine. And that's the reason why we decided it should just be in Magnum. I think a bottle size would just be too small. You need the extra volume to bring the wine out. The Magnum is superb.
Yeah. And one more time, it's exclusive to the Wine Society, and we're proud of it. And as you said, it has to be drunk during a meal.
I should mention I've Coravanned mine. I haven't opened a Magnum for my two-person household.
Oh my goodness.
I would have done.
You know the French word? It's gourmand.
Je suis gourmand. Right. So much for the white.
Yeah.
Exhibition, I think.
I think we talk about red Vacqueras, because believe it or not, most Vacqueras is red.
Yeah. We can go on the exhibition. Yeah. As you mentioned, this is the result of very professional work for years between you and us, and we thank you for your passion for us, and it's been a pleasure, real pleasure to create this exhibition, because for people, everybody has to understand that it's really a partnership between Marcel and us. We have, if you come at the cellar, down at the cellar in South of France, don't ask for exhibition. It is not existing. It's a unique blend that we prepare, that we pre-prepare for Marcel, is coming every year, tasting the Grenache tanks, the Syrah tanks, and the Mourvèdre tanks. And he does the blend he wants. And we do the blend he wants. There's no, our opinion is not important. It's really Marcel's and the Wine Society's taste. And we're really proud of this, really. So basically, this is, as Marcel loves Grenache from south of the Rhône Valley, let's say most of the time, 90% of the time, it's a Grenache-based wine. You've probably seen a picture of the exhibition. We will see it again. And the rest depends on the year. And I'm sorry to say, to tell you that it is our secret between Marcel and I. So it's Grenache-based, and then the rest can be Grenache again, or Grenache and Syrah, or Grenache and Mourvèdre. It's our secret with Marcel. Is that it, Marcel?
Yeah, I suppose so.
So you see, I was talking in the beginning about the big plateau. You can see on the picture, we are definitely on the middle of this big plateau facing the Dentelle de Montmirail, fantastic view. And we are harvesting actually the Grenache from the exhibition, as you can see by hand. And if you carefully see, there's a man on top of the tank, and it's myself. And I spent during the harvest a year on top of this tank, selecting the berries. Each grape passes through my hands, and it's very important. And that's the explanation why I am not harvesting by machine, because the machine doesn't select the grapes. And to do the best wine, you need to select them. So no other way. Must be one man on top of it, and it's me, because actually I'm the one who knows the most about what is a good grape and a bad grape.
Absolutely.
Sounds good to me. And then I think we have got time to squeeze in the third wine, if that's all right with you, Jean-Michel. We've got plenty of questions as well. We're not going to get through them all live, but we'll try our best. But if we could go on to the third wine, that would be fantastic, which I believe, Jean-Michel, is the one that you're drinking.
Yes, actually, I'm drinking. Yeah, it's amazing. If you could have, if I could pass my glass to you, Marcel, with the curry, with Indian curry, should be great. So Grenat Noble is one of the two very unique and special cuvées we are producing. We are working, yes, exactly. You see the vines on the bottom just here, lower, really low terroir. The only terroir we have in the hill, having the noble rot. When the rot comes, of course. We are doing, in the south of the Rhône Valley, wines with noble rot. Can be incredible, but we are doing this. One in red, the Grenat Noble, Grenat for Grenache, and Noble for noble rot. So as you can see, there's the healthy one on the left-hand side and the rot on the right-hand side. So it's really, when we're harvesting this, it's just a nightmare. Every year, we think we're just crazy harvesting this. Just imagine, I spend an entire month selecting the grapes to have only the one on my left-hand side. And at the end of the harvest, I completely change, and I just harvest the worst one for this wine. So in my brain, just imagine how it is. And the rot came. Do I have 5 minutes to explain to people how was the first vintage?
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, very quickly. It's my problem. Very quickly, it's always a problem with me. I'm not. We are not clever. You see, it's just that it happened. It happened once by chance in 1992 vintage. You probably remember 1992 in the south of the Rhône. We have big floods. We have more big storms, more than 700 millimeters of rain in 3 hours. So the result was that all the vineyard of Grenache we had was completely rotten. And the first vintage was pure Grenache and purely rotten. And it was, we vinified it as a table wine because it was just, for us, it was just rubbish. And 3 months after the harvest, we always do a blind tasting to be sure of the quality and of the different range of wines. And what happened during this tasting is that, this blind tasting, is that the table wine was the best wine we've been producing. And honestly, we spent 3 months just to understand why this, sorry for the word, this shit was the best wine we've been producing. And we've realized then, after a lot of thoughts, that in fact this rot, gray, at this moment it was gray, not noble, was dried by the mistral 2 or 3 days after. So we created the first Grenache Noble with gray rot dried by mistral, and it was enormous. Then we have tried, of course, to do it again because the wine was enormous, and we harvested the gray rot, but the gray rot, if it's not dried by mistral, is really undrinkable. So it took us 3 or 4 years, and in 95, during harvested, I saw a piece of land where noble rot was coming on the red. So we started again harvesting this noble rot apart and mixing it with late harvesting, in fact. And that's how we created the noble rot, the Grenache Noble. In fact, the recipe is there. 1/3 really noble rotten red Grenache and 2/3 of late harvesting from Grenache. And that's the recipe.
Thank you. Just for members as well who maybe aren't familiar, the mistral that Jean-Michel mentioned is the wind, the very strong wind that blows down the tunnel of the Southern Rhone. So it's rotten, but then dried out by the sounds of things from Michel. But the perfect combination.
Yeah, the miracle was there. Rot and mistral.
Now, Marcel, I'm conscious that you will have to run off at some point. So before you do, you were keen to talk with Jean-Michel about the 2019 vintage. So I think whilst we have you, that's certainly a good time to talk about that, especially as our Rhône en primeur offer has just launched. So I'll allow you two to have a quick chat about the 2019.
Okay, well, talk about, yes, absolutely. What can I say about 2019? Because I was there when it happened, more or less, in sort of September, October 2019, and actually remember tasting the wines then, and they were pretty extraordinary. And then, very luckily, I was able to get to the Rhône between lockdowns in October and have a tasting. And I think when I was there, we were all like that. You know, we were tasting like this.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah. A cowboy, another one. You were
absolutely.
a cowboy.
Sorry?
You were a cowboy
anyway,
looking.
Absolutely, it's my cowboy look. So what can I say about 2019? It's a vintage I've never seen before. In terms of ripeness, in terms of color, in terms of flavor, it's absolutely extraordinary. And Southern Rhone, Northern Rhone, extraordinary in both. But I think Jean-Michel, I think you absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the other red cuvées that you produced, because we do the exhibition, which is designed for early drinking. You don't need to keep these wines at all. But you also do a wine called Saint-Roch, which is slightly more serious. And then Templier, which is pure Syrah, and which is very serious. And these wines, of course, need keeping. And both these wines are in the opening offer, and they're both to be recommended. Jean-Michel, what do you think of the vintage? What's your view?
My view about 19 is simply, as you said, what to expect more than this. You see, we've been doing the 18, which was wow, and 19 is even more but not even more in terms of more of everything. Even more because there's everything is at the right place with the right maturity, the right tannins. It's a wine to age and a wine to drink. It's just the aromas, the amount of aromas is just amazing. As you said, I have never tasted my young wines with that amount of fruit. So I think we will be, all of us, you and me, watching for the 19 vintage in aging, because it's just amazing. It's just never seen before.
Fantastic. We've actually had a couple of members as well ask questions about the alcohol levels in the 2019 vintage. I know it's a important subject to talk about in terms of balance, but they've spotted that the alcohol levels were quite high. Was it a particularly warm year, 2019?
Very warm, very hot indeed. The alcohol levels are actually probably more noticeable in the Northern Rhone, where you tend to expect alcohol levels about 13 and a half. And in 2019, they're at least a degree more. Southern Rhone, yes, they are high, but they're not exceptionally high. But having said that, if you're after wines at 12 degrees, then no.
No. If you're looking for 12 degree, you must go somewhere else.
Correct. You've come to the wrong place.
Yeah, there's something, sorry, but I must say it. Be careful with the alcohol written on the label and the alcohol you feel in your mouth. There is nothing to see with. Okay, you taste. I am actually tasting the Grenoble 15, which is a perfect balance with freshness. The 15 is 15.8 in alcohol. Okay, and if you taste a basic Côte du Rhône from supermarket, it will be 12 and a half, and it will be burning your mouth. It has nothing to see. The alcohol on the label has nothing to see with what you feel. When you feel burning your mouth, it's just that the wine hasn't been done properly with good berries. Because any alcohol you have, if the wine is correctly done, correctly fermented with the right yields, you don't feel the alcohol. That's it. The one on the label, the numbers on the label just show you I can drink one bottle or I can drink two bottles. That's the only thing you need to know.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that leads us nicely onto a couple of member questions. Marcel, we won't find it rude if you do need to dash off. Obviously,
that's all right. I'll stick around.
We've loved having you. Okay, fantastic. We've had plenty of questions come in. Obviously, I've asked a couple of them already where it's been relevant, but we've covered off the 2019. We have a couple of other sort of vintage questions.
Yeah.
Essentially, you've actually just mentioned the 2015 being a particularly large year, but also it was a very popular year. How does the 2019 compare with the 2015? And 16, actually.
May I?
Yeah, you may.
Yeah. Something very important about Clos de Cazaux. You don't care about the vintage for us. The vintage for us just means young, matured, or old. Okay? From 0 to 5, young. From 5 to 10, matured. More than 10, old. Why am I saying this? Because as I've said, we are selecting the berries, but we are doing the same thing in the cellar. I've told you about our blind tasting of November. This blind tasting is blind because if a tank is not as good as the previous vintage, we declassify it in table wine. You see, so as far as you buy an exhibition, a Saint-Roch, a Templier, that means that it's as good as the previous vintage. Very important. In the Clos de Cazaux, it's always done like this, and Marcel can say that every vintage is correct and more than correct compared to the other one. The only difference is for our wallet. In 2012, for example, to maintain the quality, we have declassified half of the crop. You see, very important. And then talking about 2020, it's a kind of 17. Very, very good vintage. Everything is at the right place. Everything perfect balance. A bit lower in alcohol on the label. Lots of fruits. The only thing is that if you analyze the wine, there is a bit less tannins. That means that you will be drinking the 2020 a bit before the 2019, but we're talking about after 10 years.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Jean-Michel, you've just mentioned as well the declassified wine. Marcel, I believe that we're about to sell some of that wine, so perhaps you might be able to talk a little bit more about what that wine is. Perhaps members may not Oh, it's secret. Oh no. Oh, I've revealed a secret live.
Oh, dear,
So sorry. I'll keep
Oh my
quiet.
goodness.
Oh gosh, I'll be told off tomorrow. Nobody heard it, members.
You're facing big problems.
It's a nice secret which will be revealed soon enough.
Lovely. Watch this space. On that note, we'll move swiftly on to another question. It's interesting. I often get asked this question when we're talking about other Southern Rhone appellations. And I think this is a good question for both of you to answer, if that's okay. So maybe Jean-Michel first, and then Marcel's opinion. How would you persuade a customer or a member to choose Gigondas or Vacqueras over a better, more well-known Châteauneuf-du-Pape?
Share, quality, price.
Oh, good question.
What was that? Sorry, Jean-Michel?
The share, quality, and price.
Share, quality, the sheer quality and price.
Yeah, the share, quality, and price. For a bottle of good Châteauneuf-du-Pape, you have a case of 6 of Vacqueras. Try it, and then you see.
Can't argue with that.
No, can't argue with that.
Marcel, have you got anything to add to that?
I mean, Jean-Michel is right. I mean, Châteauneuf-du-Pape is probably better known, and the wines have a slightly higher price for that reason. But Châteauneuf-du-Pape is a very large appellation. It's 3,000 hectares, and most of it's rubbish. Vacqueyras is much smaller, and there's not very much rubbish. And Gigondas, it's the same. So quality, actually, overall, quality is better. I mean, in Gigondas, you have a very good co-op that makes very good wine. In Vacqueras too. In Châteauneuf, you've got a co-op that really does not make very good wine at all. C'est comme ça.
C'est comme ça. Yeah.
Perfect. Hopefully that's answered that question that was in from Jordan Wiltshire. So hopefully, I'm sure there were other members thinking the same.
The thing is, when you're a Rhône lover, you must taste everything, you see, and you must taste Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and you must try Châteauneuf-du-Pape, and find your way in this incredible area with more than 1,000 winemakers. Then you make your choice with your wallet and with your palate. That's I think the more fair thing to say about the comparison between Vacqueras and Gigondas and Châteauneuf.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. We have a fun question, but it's something that I often wonder, particularly with winemakers in your area, Jean-Michel. We have had a question from Alan Jones. how do you stop the sommelier from eating your grapes? And he says it's a problem he has with his small vineyard. So
I love this question. As I mentioned, we have forest surrounding the fields, but I didn't mention how much. In Gigondas, we have in total 65 hectares and only 20 hectares of vineyard. So everybody is okay with his piece of land. The wild porks are not eating my berries because they don't need to go there. They have enough forest to find their way and to find their feed and to feed themselves, you see. And that's where my father was clever in the 60s. He was an ecologist, a green man before the green happens.
Very clever. Everybody living in harmony, enough to eat in the forest.
Exactly.
Wonderful. So I'm going to squeeze in 2 more questions. I hope you don't mind, Jean-Michel. We have had a few others. There are going to be some things that we'll be able to reply on email. If you've had any questions about drink dates, etc., we'll be able to clarify with Marcel and with the team here. If there are any very pertinent questions for Jean-Michel, then we might be able to pop a couple over to email. He's very busy, but yes, he's also very generous with his time. So
I'll be here anyway.
So lovely. We've got a couple more questions in that case. One question that I think we've obviously not spoken too much about Gigondas, but there was a question, because it harvests so much later, or you mentioned there can be a big time difference, does that give a greater concentration of fruit compared to Vacqueras? And I'd like to maybe extend that question slightly to an everyday taster. What would be the difference or the key differences between tasting a Vacqueras and a Gigondas? We've stumped them.
Yeah, the key difference in our case is the terroir. Okay, basically, as you can see in the map, Vacqueras and Gigondas are together. Okay, so basically, on one part of the road, you can have the same wine than on the other part. We're okay with this. We are lucky because our vineyards are separated by 7 kilometers and 400 meters height difference. So our Vacqueras and Gigondas are naturally the expression of their soil and naturally different. I just talk about my domain, of course. It must be more complicated for Marcel to explain it generally.
Well, if I can, I think, as you say, the difference is terroir. And the terroir in Gigondas, I think, is slightly more complex than the terroir in Vacqueyras because of the influence the mountains behind of the Dentelle de Montmirail. And because it's harvested much later, sure, there's a difference in intensity. Gigondas always has freshness, always. So a big difference, I think, between Gigondas and Châteauneuf. Châteauneuf, the wines are very round and very rich and voluptuous. Gigondas always has precision and a certain amount of freshness. And Vacqueyras is a bit between the two.
Yeah.
Vacqueyras too has charm. And that charm often comes from the Syrah grape.
Yeah.
Which gives a wonderful bouquet and wonderful fruity flavor.
Thank you both so much. I think members as well, it's just about trying them side by side. I can't speak volumes enough about sitting with one of each next to each other. It's very hard to tell the difference for most people, me included, but it's a really fun experiment. There's nothing more fun.
I can answer differently. In the French way of eating, we are selecting the right wine with the right dish, and the dishes to go with Vacqueras are different than the dishes to go on the Gigondas. Gigondas, you must try it with lamb. Gigondas is better with lamb. And Vacqueras is better with veal or with quality chicken from the breast or little animals, rabbits, wild rabbits, things like this. So for us, there's no comparison. There's a wine that must be paired with a dish. That's how we find the wine.
That's a fantastic answer. Thank you, Jean-Michel. I have one more question to ask you live, and it is a nice one and one dear to my heart as well. We've had quite a few members asking about visiting. Now, I've even had some members giving advice. So Diggory has said, for those who visit me, I recommend the Rhône de Novembre, so the sweet wine, much better than Baume de Venise do. And I have to say that my family live actually very close to Jean-Michel, and it's a real pleasure and a real treat going up there. My mum and dad went up there to buy some wines yesterday, and they love it. It's a beautiful setting. So I think both of you, if I can hear about visiting when we're all allowed to. Jean-Michel, are we invited?
All of you. But
not at the same time.
But with the COVID, one after the other. We are so happy to see all of you anytime, except on Sunday.
I think that's fair. And Marcel, you've obviously visited many times. Can you maybe give members a little insight into what a visit to see Jean-Michel or to see the Clos de Cazaux family is like?
I think the first of all is that you're struck by the beauty of the place and by the dentelle de Montmirail in the background. And then you're struck by the warmth and generosity of the hosts. It's always a special event. And it's always very businesslike. Don't spend too much time. We don't argue. We taste very good wines. And then we come away with a good solid handshake, except now we can't handshake. It's very sad. And no bisous either.
No. Finish the bisou.
Hopefully I'll be back. I'll be back in the autumn.
Yeah. So do I. So do we.
I'll have vaccinations all over the place.
Good.
A vaccination in this arm, a vaccination in that arm.
Oh, well, I'm sure lots of members as well will. And your mask. I'm sure there are plenty of members as well who are hoping to make their way to the Southern Rhone as soon as they can. I know that I'm certainly desperate to get back out there and see my parents and my family. So a lovely evening to both of you. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you to the members. Lots of you had Jean-Michel's wines open this evening, so that was a real treat. It was lovely to hear what you were thinking of them. A thanks to Catherine and Gil behind the scenes for all their hard work. A thanks to Marcel for giving up his son's 21st birthday evening to join us. And thank you for your son for letting us, Marcel. And last but not least, I'll let you do the final sign off, Marcel, but from all of us at the tasting team, a huge thank you to Jean-Michel as well. So.
Absolutely. Jean-Michel, Fred, santé.
Chin.
À la prochaine. See you.
Yeah, and remember, God save the Queen.
And God save Monsieur Macron.
Cheers. It's been a pleasure. It's as you know, I'm really in love with the Wine Society, and it's been gorgeous for me. We should have one more hour to talk about, and really I come back whenever you want. Please do come home anytime to visit and to understand more. I'm happy. I'm here for this. We're all here for this. So I'm really looking forward to come up in the tasting from the Wine Society. I miss you so much. Thank you for all. Really.
Thank you all, and good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao Marcel. Ciao Anna. Oh, bye everybody.
Salut.
Thanks a lot.